fighting corruption for you. It's the David Paul Blumenshine Show.
What is our plan? I know that many of you are sitting out there and you're just dumbfounded by everything that you see going on around you. In fact, you find yourself, like I do, I'm sure, pinching yourself going, what has happened? What just happened? I think that could be said about what we just experienced through this last election cycle. And guess what? I knew it was going to happen. In fact, I was pretty certain that it was going to take place here locally and pretty much throughout the nation, as we are seeing a basically ineffective Republican Party continue to roll out their old ways, expecting their different results. In fact, I found myself in a meeting about a week ago where I was listening to what Chairman Tracy, that's Don Tracy of the Illinois Republican Party, he has just recently released his memo, but it seems like everybody's on the same page again. We have several priorities now at the state party. Improving Republican unity, number one. Building a bigger tent, because we've been doing that for years, and who knows, what does that even mean? Improving election integrity, okay. Providing resources and training for local Republican organizations, because we haven't been doing that for a very long time, maybe never. Data management, political communications, ballot chasing, and much more. Okay, let me back up again. Ballot chasing. See, many of you might know that, as I do, as the true meaning of the word, which is why it is that we fail often, is because we can't even call it what it is. It's ballot harvesting. The Dems have mastered ballot harvesting. They know almost within a few votes how many votes they are going to need to make it a blowout every election. So if we're expecting different results going forward, we are going to have that same mindset. And I want to talk a little bit about that today. In studio, as always, with me here at the DPB show on Sundays is Kev Ferris of Speechless, getting ready for his own big show here from 3 to 5.
That I am. I'm in here in studio doing work, not only on DPB's show, but also making sure that we're bringing you everything on the radio, but also through Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, wherever you're streaming right now. You could be, maybe you're getting home from listening to the radio in your car and everything, and you're getting home and you're like, you know what? I want to actually interact with the guys in studio. And you can right now go onto YouTube, go onto Facebook, Cities 92.9. You can even go onto our Twitter and watch us there. You can make comments, interact with us, give us a little wave through an emoji or something, and we will be able to take your comments right there. But as always, you can still call or text in at 309-451-9299.
And we're going to get back with Kevin so he can give us a little brief of what his show will be about today later on in my show. But I want to go ahead and just jump right into this, because I am anticipating the Kat Peterson being in studio with us during the show, because I want to get some feedback on the night that we covered the elections and talk a little bit about what we experienced that evening. But getting right to it, obviously, I've read you the Chairman Tracy of the Illinois Republican Party's memo, the first paragraph. And he also went on to say that as we work to build up the next generation of leaders, I am delighted to announce that the application for summer internship is open. I want to be part of helping build that bench, because it's not going to get done in the manner that we have before us. We've tried this old, tried and true way of the establishment Republicans, which is improving unity, building a bigger tent. That hasn't worked over 37 years of Michael Madigan. It's not going to work today. Now, you do get he does have a point with the ballot chasing, which is actually ballot harvesting. But I'd like to go into a show that was done by our very own Dan Bongino. Now, this was not his radio broadcast. This was is podcast, which you guys can go out there and find, and you just have to go to Rumble. That's Dan's got a vested interest in Rumble, and Dan has his show up there. The show that I'm speaking of is episode 1990, and it's entitled "It's Time for," and of course he uses two letters that I'm not going to use because it really isn't my personality and my character, but it basically is something that isn't very nice. But it's time for blank politics, and he has a description of that. I hope you guys will go out there and look at Dan, the Dan Bongino show. But Dan gives a tried and true plan of going forward and practicing this methodology he believes will be successful. In fact, he leads off with the first point being, tell your political opponent, and we are talking about the leftists here and the Dems, to blank themselves. You can fill in the blank and do it publicly. I think Kevin's going to run the first the clip here of Dan on this show.
I just want to make sure because I have not
4
listened.
minutes.
I know, but because I haven't listened to these yet, are they? Does he say the bad word?
No, he never says
he
it.
doesn't.
He just uses the letter.
I just wanted to make sure I wasn't about to.
No, Dan Bongino pretty much runs a family-friendly show, even when it's not family-friendly.
Okay, let's hear it here.
Tried every other approach to get them to wake up and change. But it's getting late in the game, and the country is in a dangerous, perilous spot. We're going to announce today, and this show may not be for everyone. Cutesy time is officially over, and we're just going to go for it right in the title, and we're going to start practicing FU politics. Now, I get it. This show may not be for everyone, so I'm warning you in advance. If it's not for you, you're not going to hurt my feelings. I love you. You can come back tomorrow. I hope you do. Love you to death. But this show is going to be a kick in the nuts. Not an actual kick in the nuts, because that would really hurt, but a rhetorical kick in the nuts, which may hurt too, because cutesy time's over. And if the Republican Party is not going to engage in political tactics that are going to move this country back in the liberty direction and are going to allow it to fold into complete chaos and socialist tyranny, I'm not going to be a part of that. And the way to fix it is to say, well, how are the Democrats getting us to tyranny and complete chaos? And the answer is they're doing it by practicing FU politics. So let's take our cues from the Democrats, right? Why create mediocrity?
Exactly. And this is where I want to go today, because I just read for you Chairman Tracy's memo about moving forward and what his plan is for the statewide Republican Party here in Illinois. And it gets back to my frustration as I went into this meeting last Monday, especially following an election. And mind you, you folks know, if you can hear my voice and you tune in here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal, on Sundays from 1 to 3, or if you even turn in during the week and listen to Kat or Kevin or even Adam Chandler and Swan, Davey, you hear some of exactly what we have been saying over and over. We are not fearful of standing up and voicing what we believe needs to happen. Unfortunately, and if you're listening, you guys aren't of this mindset. And if you are of this mindset, I hope to encourage you to move beyond that mindset, because Chairman Tracy's building a bigger tent, Republican unity, improving election integrity, providing resources for training of local Republican organizations, data management, all those things which should have been being done a long time ago are not going to move the needle. We lost 7 races here locally. And that just didn't happen here locally. Yes, there were some successes, like up in Naperville. They got a Republican mayor. But overall, coming off of the November election, and mind you, I understand, I was part of the Bailey campaign. We got our proverbial behinds kicked. And we did so, and I take full responsibility for my part in that, because I did not implement a ballot harvesting campaign. That is the only way we are going to win going forward. If we do not do that, we are never going to win an election again on a statewide level in Illinois. Not today, not tomorrow, not for the next 30 years, because we choose not to oppose these people. As Dan just said, it is time to stop with the games. Stop believing that we can be Mr. Nice Guy and win against these folks. They don't play Mr. Nice Guy. Come on. All you had to do during this local campaign with the referendum was to go out to elected official Corey Burney's Facebook page and listen to him call you and I, anybody that believes the way we do, extremist. Are you kidding me? Extremists? That's what we are? We're extreme because we believe in family. We believe in God. We believe in family. We believe in hard work. We believe in this country. We believe in American exceptionalism. We believe that freedom isn't free. We believe in issues that don't pertain to perverting our children on a daily basis in our public school system. So for those folks out there, which I know there are many of them, because obviously there are many of them. In fact, a polling shows that 50% of people, 50 plus percent of people believe that the Democrat way of doing things is getting us into a better position. Okay, moving on. Obviously that was point number one. And I want to get through Dan's 9 points because I think they're brilliant. And I want to contrast them with what Chairman Tracy had to say in his memo about how he views things going forward. But number two is the GOP is good at striking the left. You've seen it. I've seen it. We've heard it. They come out and they make an announcement. Unfortunately, the Dems, they never hesitate, and they strike back immediately. They strike back immediately, and they hit us back hard. Well, it's time that we start doing that too. When the GOP strikes and the left strikes back, we need to not just lay back. We need to go back after them. We need to drive that home. Looked like Kevin was going to say something because he's going to get to 12:29.
I just have the video for you ready when you want.
No, you get it. Go ahead.
Here
Run it. This is what I'm talking about.
Of what I mean. So the GOP in Tennessee expelled 2 of the 3 insurrectionists who caused an insurrection on the Capitol floor in Tennessee. I thought the Democrats were anti-insurrection. Turns out they absolutely love insurrections as long as it's their guys and ladies in this case. 2 of them were expelled. One of them survived, a female lawmaker. They didn't wait. They didn't wait to find out what these guys really stood for, if they were worth defending. Matter of fact, there's a story I'll give you in a second here. It's now emerged, a story about allegations that one of the guys had engaged in street violence in the past, one of the insurrectionists. I thought they were against violence and insurrection, Joe. They told us on January 6th, violence, insurrection, put them in the gulag. No, not for their guys. Here's an article in Slate, far left radical outlet, Slate. Democrats can be Democrats and win. Tennessee Republicans punished 2 state representatives for daring to protest gun control.
Real quick.
What happened?
That's a statement. Democrats can be Democrats and win. When can Republicans, Mr. Tracy, Don, when can Republicans be Republicans and win? Why is there this push for this Big Tent? Big Tent. We have a platform. We have values. Go ahead. Keep it rolling.
Okie dokie.
We engaged in an insurrection on the floor, Democrats. This is Slate saying we should do this more. You then booted our guys out, and we then immediately reappointed them. We didn't even ask. One of them, matter of fact, here's an article someone passed on to me from Scoop Nashville in 2021. One of the insurrectionists, Justin Jones, they called him Brother Jones, Joe. Brother Jones says he wasn't violent, but new video shows he was, and the grand jury agrees. This is an article about him allegedly attacking a guy with a traffic cone. This is one of the insurrectionists. I thought the left was insurrectionist violence. I thought they didn't like that. I thought they.
Exactly. And we just lived through that. Here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Always appreciate you guys joining here at the DPB show. But we've been through that. You have been through that with us. I was just sharing with our new general manager here at the station just on Friday that when we put forward the Stop the Steal, there were very few radio stations doing that throughout the country. In fact, let's count them. Oh, that's one, Cities 92.9. We had no fear. We knew what the backlash was going to be. But once again, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, Einstein's definition of insanity. Don Tracy, you just heard it. We expelled these members in Tennessee as the Republican Party. And quickly, the Democrat Party said, not today. We're putting them back in. Too bad, so sad. When are we going to have the ability to stand up like that and to face our giants? This giant is on a runaway course. And unfortunately, he is just leveling everything in it. Are we going to continue to stand back? We just saw what happened in this last election. Not only happened in the fall, happen again in this municipality election. At what point are you going to stand up and fight? Hey, we're going to be back here. Plenty of points to cover in regards to Dan Bongino and his plan for our future as a Republican Party when we come back after break here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal.
Okay, you're still live on Facebook.
Yeah. So, and audio's on too. Obviously a little pumped about this today, as you can tell. I need the mic. I always want to pull the mic away, Kevin. Here she comes. There's Kat. Look at Kat's coming in. Obviously, one of the things I want to do is definitely recap the election night, though, Kevin, because I think it's so important and so many things at play right now. First and foremost, we know Ron DeSantis is coming to the Peoria Civic Center on May 12th. He's going to be here to represent himself as the governor of Florida, talking about what it took to take Florida from the state they were in, which, interesting as it is, Kevin, and I do need to point this out, it wasn't like he had to move it too far. The state of Florida has done very well, even, and I have to admit, well, you know, we can't take this away. Charlie Crist did not have a terrible Florida. Now, there are areas that were very terrible. One was election integrity, right? He had Miami-Dade County and Broward County. But he also had the crime. He had a lot of issues there that I believe that DeSantis has come in and done an amazing job. But I think establishing a forward-looking growth plan to take Florida to number one. Charlie Crist did not have Florida as number one. And so I think that's going to be interesting to see his perspective of taking Florida from a state that was, you know, mediocrity to number one, and how we could maybe pivot off of that. I don't think that's going to happen, unfortunately, with our current governor and the current administration that's in. You're getting a shout out by Glenn Beck right now, Kat, just FYI. Here we go. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. I do want to talk about the election itself, the night of the election. Hey, thank you for coming back here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. I just think I did a little Kevin Ferris there. Hey,
Bloomington Normal, and welcome back to the DPB show.
There you go.
I know.
That sounds like Rerun. That's an old sitcom from back in the day before either one of you were born. He'd come in and say, hey, you know, Rerun and Raj, you know. There was like this group of people growing up in the inner city projects, and I don't know if it was Cabrini Green or wherever it was, but yeah, so here we are. And Kat, there she is.
Yes,
The
I am
cat.
here. Thanks so much for having me on, DPB.
Well, Kat, we just thought, Kevin and I were talking about this before you came in, that this is going to be real easy, see, because he's over there doing what you do during the week, not only during the week, but you do it for your Conservative Cat Show. He's producing. You
Yes.
don't have to produce your own show. In fact, all you had to do was come in and sit in the hot seat next to
I
me.
even have my lovely tea, and I am very excited to have conversation with
which is-
DPB.
Uh,
And I've got my, what does it say? Make America Great Again.
That's kind of, and the reason, if you're out there and you're listening, you can actually watch us right now. We are live on Facebook and on YouTube
And on
We're-
Twitter even.
and
now,
even
too,
on
yeah.
Twitter. Kevin's got us set up. But Kat, what I was telling the audience, and is that we had this election return night. It was the first time that the three of us did the election results. And one of the things that I was discussing that night, because you had not done the election headquarters, Kev had not done the election headquarters, I had the pleasure of doing it with a gentleman named Andy Roberts back for the 2020 election with President Trump, and couldn't believe right before my eyes what was happening. I saw it. I couldn't believe I was seeing it, but I knew they were pausing the election. I had watched many times over election return results and never saw it where they stopped an election.
Well, and you know what I was doing right after church this afternoon? I just started watching 2000 Mules. I hadn't watched it in a long time, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to watch this. And, everybody knew that something in their gut just fell. It was like a rock sank to the bottom of your stomach when you woke up the morning after the election, after Trump lost, and you couldn't quite understand what it was, what happened, but you knew something was wrong.
Yep.
I remember. I mean, I was just like, I'm an emotional creature, so I definitely started shedding some tears that morning, because everybody was saying, "Oh, it's trending this way for Trump, trending this way for Trump." You went to bed, then you woke up, and suddenly everything changed, and then suddenly this dementia-riddled old man, he got into office somehow, and he didn't campaign. He was in his basement. That none of it added up, and what you were talking about earlier on your show was the whole ballot harvesting. Don Tracy saying, "Oh yeah, well now we have to start ballot chasing, whatever the heck that means." Whatever,
Ballot
Don.
chasing our tail is what that is.
Yeah.
That's what it explains, because ballot harvesting, true ballot harvesting is this. You go out and you get low propensity voters, low information voters, people who usually they're basically inactive voters. And you contact them. You make sure they get a ballot. You go and you pick up their ballot. Now, if they haven't filled it out, you instruct them that you're there to assist them in helping them fill their ballot out. Somebody said, is that legal? That you
Now
help
it is,
people
I
visit
guess.
there's people that during elections are texting me from the voting booth asking me questions about candidates. Why? Once again, these aren't people that understand who is on the ballot. They don't usually vote. This is the opportunity that exists because there are we saw it here locally. And I want to bring us back to the local election, especially that night. We knew as soon as the vote by mail ballots were posted by Kathy Michael as our county clerk on her site, I turned to Kat and said, "Do you want me to call the election now?" We had only been on the air a half hour. Granted, that doesn't make for a lot of a 2-hour time slot, right? But there were plenty of things that we could still talk about. But that's how easy it is to figure this thing out. I could tell by the number that came out initially for the candidates and the referendum where this was going. And it was over. And it was over because of ballot harvesting. They know the number. They know how many they need to get. Only on average, 25% of residents, registered voters in McLean County voted for issues. So that means that less than it means 75% of people didn't utilize their voice in deciding things that impact their lives every day. Hey, we're going to continue to talk about this here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. This is the DPB show. Yes, you're right. You see it. I got Kevin Ferris of Speechless, Kat Peterson of not only the Morning Buzz, but Conservative Kat here in studio with yours truly today as we break down what we need to do going forward to win. We'll cover that right after break. All right. So
Yeah, moving forward, I don't know. So it's not illegal to get. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's not illegal to go and have somebody. So I was watching 2,000 Mules in Fulton County. They had 242 mules. These are people who were, a Antifa, BLM, these activists, right? And they were bad guys, and they were stuffing the ballots full. So you get these ballot harvesters, and then maybe the Republican Party gets these mules, and then they start throwing them into drop boxes and things like that. I mean, if they're going to do it, and that's clear, right? Antifa,
Yeah.
they were there. They can have this cell phone data that shows that these 242 mules, out of all of those, there were dozens that were, cross-referenced with these riots that were taking place in the 2020 election. So we know that they're Democrats.
Yeah.
The ones that were the mules. We know
It's-
that they're
but
Democrats.
the
So
thing is,
Republicans need to play the same
it's
game.
it's orchestrated. So and this is the point that's going to be made here as we roll through the show, is that, as Bongino said, it's lessons in FU politics. Tell your political opponent to FU themselves and do it publicly. And then he goes on to say, when the GOP strikes, the left immediately strikes back. When is the GOP going to start striking back?
Yeah, that's the
You
thing.
know, and so they strike back. If they hit, you hit them harder, and you hit them harder publicly. Rush Limbaugh was famous for saying, "You cannot play patsy cakes with these."
Well,
these
here
folks.
in the state of Illinois, it's not illegal to have somebody go and drop off ballots to a ballot box.
I said patsy cakes. I meant patty cakes. Patty cakes. That's what patty. Yeah, that's we're playing patty cake with the left, and it's compromise at a level that we're never going to be able to win another statewide election. And based on the margins of victory over this last municipal, we might not win. You could be watching possibly the county board for the first time in the history flip if we don't get our act together. That's how dire things are right now.
Here's my brain. What do we do? What do we do now? Don Tracy has got to be the guy that kind of is the one behind all of this at the state level, because there's no way that you can.
He's not. It's not going to happen.
Local guys.
That's right.
To get behind this, like say Dennis Grunler. How
Yeah.
can Dennis Grunler do his job effectively if the state party is not behind him?
Well, they can't,
that he
because
does his
so
job?
each county can independently. And once again, I didn't realize how inept the Republican Party was statewide until I got involved running for office, and now recently being on the board for the Republican Party, which it's not the current board by any means. We've got very capable people currently on the board. And I'm not saying the people of days gone by weren't good people. It's just they weren't doing the things we need to do. Proof positive. The chairman who runs the entire 102 counties is coming out with this memo here just the other day on April 14th that says, we have to have unity in the party. Unity?
Oh, we're not playing with people who
I think
push porn on our children.
we're past, but yes, here we are at Sunday, April 16th. You've tuned into the David Paul Blumenshine Show. That's right, the DPB show. And you know what? I hope that we can accomplish one thing today here in April of 2023, that what we have been doing as a Republican Party, as a conservative movement, has not worked up to this point. And we need to do something different. In fact, just live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, Kat and I were just talking about this. She said, and go ahead, Kat, just FYI for our audience out there live, if you're just tuning in, I've got yours truly in studio with Kevin from Speechless and Kat Peterson from the Morning Buzz, Conservative Kat.
Thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, no,
Well, and I don't know. You're laying out this plan that Dan Bongino's got.
the 9-point plan. Yeah.
FU politics, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love how he puts that. But the GOP has to get off their arse. That's just the bottom line. You have to get off your arse, and I don't know who is going to be the force behind it.
And you said, is it Don Tracy? And we've got a local representative chair in Dennis Grundler. I know Kevin's going to have Tazewell County Chair Jim Rule on. Now, there are a couple chairs that are getting it right, and those two men are getting it right. The Peoria County Chair is Chuck Weaver. His son Travis is the state representative. I'm kind of taking a wait and see thing. I like Chuck. It doesn't mean I don't like any of these people. I liked our former chair, Connie Beard, very much. In fact, I still do. We're friends. I like other Republicans who are in the party. I just ran for state representative twice. I ran for state representative twice for the very reasons that we're seeing laid out today. And that is almost 7 years later. 7 years later, and I'm still talking about the issues that impact our party. I saw it 7 years ago, but really this started 20 plus years ago, where we started losing headway because we've only controlled the governor's office for 4 years in the last, 25. We haven't had the House. We haven't had the Senate. Politics in Illinois are controlled. Politics here locally. Fortunately, we control the countywide offices like the county clerk, Kathy Michael, like state's attorney.
Oh, it's a uniparty. It's a uniparty. Anybody who calls themselves a Republican in McLean County, they are not a Republican. They are a part of the uniparty.
Well,
and that's what the state of Illinois, because Don Tracy and the Republicans at the state level have done jack to help push actual Republicanism, actual conservatism, where I've got a Heartland Community College student here sitting here telling me that he's a Republican, then looking at me and saying that he's liberal fiscally. And I'm like, well, then no, you're not a conservative. You're not a Republican. The fundamentals of Republicanism is, hey, I'm going to be conservative with my money. I'm not going to let you tax me into oblivion. That's the core foundation. You are not a Republican, and I don't know who told you that, but you're wrong.
Well,
right? And that's what the two-party...
That's what building a bigger tent has gotten us. We
it's too big of a tent, and now it's a uniparty, and it's like, what do you even stand for? You stand for nothing. You're a part of the uniparty. You are not a Republican. Shut up right now.
And the grassroots has gotten, and even though the grassroots is the Republican Party, the leadership continues to ignore it, which gets us to this point that Dan Bongino makes, which basically is that here we have, taking off with what you had mentioned about the fact that we've become a uni party, is we've never put forth our policies and just went full steam ahead, doubled down. Mm-hmm. The Dems do that constantly. Whether it actually, if it fails, they double down even more.
Yeah.
We don't do that.
Okay, so for example, can you give me an example of like something that we as Republicans were to subscribe to that we just don't double down on? And then can you give me like a counter, like on the Democrat side?
Yeah. Well, once again, Social Security, it's broken. Now we even have President Trump running ads, former President Trump running ads in Florida from the left, position against DeSantis. I think DeSantis understands the dire need to do something differently to secure the brokenness of Social Security. You even see other people kind of playing fast and loose with that. The border. Currently, what's going on in public education? Taxation. Mm-hmm. There are plenty. Spending. You know the reason we have, Kevin, I'm going to try you on this one.
Yep.
What's the reason we have inflation?
Because we've put out too much money into the market.
The government spent too much money.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's how simple this is the government continues to spend money, and then but Kevin, do we really have inflation? Because think about this. It went high as 8.9. Now it's down to 5. So really, it's not inflation anymore.
Yes, we still have inflation. Absolutely.
We still have inflation.
We've been content. But here's the thing, and this is not excusing anything. Our inflation numbers are drastically high. But for a while, I mean, even during President Trump's presidency, we were having inflation because we've consistently had a government that can't pass a balanced budget. And I hate to say it, but the last time I believe we had a balanced budget, if not Bush, then it was Clinton.
Yeah.
Was the last time we had.
I think it was Clinton.
And so I hate to say that. I mean, I get maybe there's one good thing that he did, but we need a balanced budget in America.
But
and
he had an uncanny way of balancing the budget like J.B. Pritzker does. J.B. Pritzker will claim that he has had 3 balanced budgets in a row. And you understand, everybody, our audience included, obviously, if you're just joining us here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Kevin Ferris is speechless. Kat Peterson, the Morning Buzz, Conservative Cat, in studio with me. We're hitting upon how we move this thing forward. Balanced budgets mean one thing. You spend as much money as you have allocated. That's a balanced budget. So whether you have the money or not, as long as you balance the budget, right? You might not even have the money, that claim to a balanced budget. But you're right, Kevin. There is something to balancing budget and balancing a budget and not spending more money than you truly bring in. But it's all gamemanship because they continue to print the money, which we're finding out, which is continuing to skyrocket the inflation.
Stop.
So
Janet Yellen, you gotta stop that, honey. Somebody take away the button from Janet Yellen.
So, Kat, you asked for an example. I'm going to give it to you, okay? 50% of the people that are polled say they will never buy an EV vehicle.
Okay.
50%.
Yeah.
Guess what? as Bongino says, F you.
Yep.
50% of the
and I
consumers say
think
they're not going to buy an EV vehicle. I don't care what you say, consumer.
You're so right. Well, I even catch myself sometimes saying like, "Oh yeah, I'm totally for EVs, and I think they're cool and everything." And I can think that, but my politics are that they are not the way right now, and they are not up to speed.
I
and
can't
should not
afford
be
it.
Incentivized.
How about just I can't afford it? I mean, I love to see the Rivian trucks. I think I would love to drive one. I'd love to drive a Tesla. Unfortunately, I just don't have the initial $80,000 that I.
And I think Republicans got to come out stronger instead of saying, yeah, I actually love the Rivian. I love what Rivian is doing here.
Yeah.
Maybe we have to double down and say, no, absolutely not. We're not doing the green energy baloney right now in the state of Illinois because it doesn't work and people don't want it. Let's table it,
not because
forward.
we don't want green energy. I want green energy when it's efficient and affordable.
Yeah.
We don't have the structure to build out. In fact, they've even
let's
repeated
double
that.
down.
Hey,
honestly, I would love to see that if like a Republican politician said, you know what, F your politics, and I'm going to build myself a coal plant right here. That would be fantastic. The McLean County Board drafting up legislation. I think there's an old coal plant that I saw. It was in Lincoln, Illinois, and it's an old coal plant, and they shut it down. And I don't know what it was powering or whatever, but I was
it was
wow.
powering something.
Yeah.
Because that's what coal does.
Yeah.
It's tried and true. It's not like lithium batteries or solar panels that are burning up on top of school buildings.
So as you guys were talking about this, there was a thing I saw. You guys know Dave Landau from Loud Earth Crowder and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So Dave Landau was on Fox Business the other day, and they asked him about how Biden is trying to require 67% of all new cars to be EVs by like 2030 something. And here's the video. I think it's hilarious. This is what Dave Landau had to say about that.
I'd love to hear it.
It's not playing. Give me one sec. Here we go. That was Dave Landau. I just thought it was really funny. It reminded me. I think anybody's got a point. I mean, in the comedy, he's got a point. The only way that'll work, that we're going to have that many EVs when like you just said, only 50% of the American public is even open to it, really. The only way you're going to be able to make it so that 67, 70% of EVs are there is if everybody just dies off. Like, because how else would you do it?
You've got people, I mean, I think anybody over the age of 50 is probably going to look at you and laugh when you say, hey, you should probably change out your Ford F-150 for a Rivian truck. I know there's so many different people out there, and that's the thing is they say they're for diversity, but if you have any sort of diversity in your at all, of thought, diversity of thought, hey, I actually want to drive around in my F-150, then they hate you and they tell you to go screw yourself. Like Dan Bongino says, the left has no problem telling you that you're wrong. So the Republicans need to get better and they need to say, no, you're wrong. That's stupid. Teaching children how to masturbate in school with a drag queen present and having a drag queen read this material to your child is not good, and it's stupid, and it doesn't mean that I'm going to hate you. It doesn't mean that I am a bigot. It doesn't mean that I just think you're dumb, and that's okay.
Well,
that's okay to say you're dumb.
Hate speech is any speech that doesn't agree with my narrative in life. Hey, I know that we're up against a break again here, and I've got some texters on my phone, so I'm going to cover that. But I thought we'd run to roughly 1428 on that Bongino clip, because I think it had something really great to say about what you just mentioned, Kat. Kev's going to cue that up for us here.
Yep. Give me 1 second.
Kevin's trying. Kevin's working.
I like this. Real quick, I'm going to read a comment that we've got. Just look at Adam Kinzinger. Didn't hear boo from him until he became a rhino. Then he became more active, got his name out there, got on national news. Dems are definitely more active and in an evil way. I think that's what he was saying. Yeah, well, and part of that, I think here, even at a local level, this whole uniparty thing that I'm talking about, they come out as Big Tent or Unity or Uniparty because they want friendship from these people.
Yeah.
And politics isn't about friendship. Politics is about pushing policy that you agree with.
And I've got this clip ready.
If the policy is broken, the Dems continue to push forward. Go ahead, Kev.
You want to play cutesy time with a pending attack by China and Taiwan, nuclear-powered enemies of the United States amassing at our shores, 5% plus inflation every month, our border wide open, a fentanyl crisis killing our kids. You can do that. I'm not willing to do it. I'm sorry. I'm done with this stuff.
And that says it all. I'm done with it. That's what you're saying. You want to pervert our kids in school right in front of us and then deny that you're doing it and pretend you're not doing it? You know, I'm done with it. And you should be done with it too. And if you want to compromise, go compromise. It doesn't make me evil. It doesn't make me wrong. It's what I believe.
But you're not part of the club.
But I'm not part of the club. You're right.
You're not part of the club.
We're going to continue. There's obviously some more points to get to here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. When we come back after break, we're going to continue. What is our plan going forward? It's not what Don Tracy says it should be, the chairman of the Illinois Republican Party. We've tried that, Don. We've tried it over and over and over again, and it's not working. It's time that we change course. We can be better. Hey, we're going to be back here shortly, and we'll continue this conversation. I got the belief that it's going to get a little heated in here. All right. So we're still live here at Cities 92. My text message says, we are not reaching across the aisle. We are not working to compromise on teaching about who likes to sleep with who in grade school. We are not reaching across the aisle. We are not working to compromise on voting yes to increase gas taxes or any other kind of taxes in this one of the most taxed states in the union. We are not reaching across the aisle. We are not working to compromise on campaigning for rhinos, which are really Democrats, just because they are better of two evils.
Yeah.
No to evil, period. like Richard Irvin. I love it because we got to come back to some of these past mistakes. We can have differences of opinion. We are not a party of censorship and cult thinking, but the basic core values must be supported.
Mm-hmm.
And that is so important. I think I'm glad that we're having this
and
conversation
the
today.
only thing that I would kind of not push back against, but kind of say, not cult thinking, but more like, I mean, look at the left. Look at what they do. It's just like, if you're not part of our class, if you aren't subscribing to our policies, our doctrine, right, that we believe in, then you're out.
Yeah.
I mean, Democrats will come after you and sue you. They'll come after your personal life. They will come after you if you don't agree with them. There's no way that somebody like me could walk into the Democrat Party and say, hey, I want to actually be a Democrat now. There's no way.
Yeah.
Even if I'm a Christian, like say you're a
Yeah.
Christian,
Yeah.
you walk into the Democrat Party, I guarantee you they'll kick you right out.
George, City's George. Let's see. We got a short segment coming back, so it's up against the break, right? Is our next? Yeah. Tell him we'll put him on for George. He can give it. We'll take his insight for a brief period of time.
George, we have a really short segment, so if you can keep it short, we're gonna bring you on briefly after the break. After this break is done, okay? Okay, sounds good. Yep.
So City's George is going to be on with us when we come back. So that'll be the whole segment.
You got your dump buddy ready?
That's-
Dump button. Just hit that
George-
red button if he says something.
George, if you're watching, you know the cat's dumping you.
George, I know you like to cuss, man.
No cussing, George.
Whenever he's been on my show, he keeps it pretty clean.
Oh, okay.
No cussing. He's
I've heard him get pretty close.
He gets close. He gets close.
yeah.
But it's so easy to. I mean, I've gotten close a couple times here.
Because, like, in studio,
Because I'm more relaxed. I'm more relaxed right here, back here, not
Yeah, over
doing
there,
the monkey
sure.
buttons,
In the
and now I
studio,
kind of
I'm
want to
good.
cuss. But
I'm on the phone or anything, I'm like,
these people make you want to cuss.
Hey, Levin was just saying, we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube. Hey, if you're home and you are listening to us on the radio, you can tune in to watch us live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. We're in studio. Kat Peterson sitting next to me on my right, Kevin Ferris across the way, doing what Kat usually does during the week and on her weekend show, running the magic board, the Christmas tree board. But, there's a good point that you brought up before while we were not on air, but we were live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, was look at J.B. Pritzker. He was brought to court, found that he was outside the Constitution with his executive orders, then was even on the verge of being held in contempt of court. And whatever happens,
He doubled down.
he doubled down.
And we're still in executive order, which executive disaster.
I think it was over
declaration.
it's over on May
It's
11th.
in May.
May
Yeah.
11th. Even though the Fed has
Which is
dropped.
so funny because it's like, why? How do you know we won't be in a disaster in May?
Yeah, well, maybe JB has a disaster planned out for May, which will allow him to continue. But the point being is, even if you take these folks in front of a judge and get a ruling, they
double
don't
down.
care.
They
double
double
down.
down.
They ignore it. They ignore it. They ignore it. Hey, we've got a caller on the phone with us. City's George, are you with us?
Oh man, I'm always with you folks.
I know
Morning,
you are,
Pat.
George. What have you got today, my friend?
Well, what's wrong with this sex education teaching 5-year and 6-year-old kids masturbation and sodomy? Don't you think it's a great thing? It's the only teacher you're going to get that's going to pay the school board to teach.
Well,
You're going to get some pedophile that'll pay the state $70,000 a year to be able to teach the course. And where are you going to get them from? Pedophiles up in Joliet in prison? What's wrong with these people?
George,
Exactly, George.
You bring up a good point because, I saw this spiff on social media, George, where somebody came out and they compared the way that things are being done in a lot of the public schools, where it's openly and notoriously put forth in the kids' faces that teachers can wear Black Lives Matter shirts. They can wear gay pride shirts. They can wear I support President Obama or Michelle Obama shirts. But do you dare talk about Jesus? Do you dare go over to the sink and baptize your children? Can you do that? Well, of course not,
Of
because
course
they would
not.
lose their collective
It's all
minds.
our fault. It's our fault. I trust the Democrats when I don't trust the Republicans, because you know the Democrats. They cheat, they steal, they murder, they rape, they pillage, they plunder. They bring in children from over there in Haiti. When Clinton's old lady was in office, they arrested the woman that brought them in, 22 young girls from Haiti. They would have disappeared. They would have
Well-
never been seen. They went back.
Well,
So
and
it's our fault. You
it
can't
is.
trust the Republicans. Why?
And George-
Because you don't know what they're going to do.
I really liked what you had to say there at the beginning, where you called it sodomy. That's interesting because people nowadays, they'll call it anal sex, and the left tends to do that. The Democrats, they'll tend to change language so fast to
Oh.
where we can't keep up. And I like how you referred to it as sodomy, because that's exactly what it is.
That's
That
what
was
it
the
is.
original word, and they changed it to whitewash exactly what it is. It's sodomy.
Well, but in Cat,
Okay, we got people with AIDS 20, 30, 40, and 50. You're going to have AIDS at 9 and 10. It's going to take a couple of years. And here's another thing. Kat, what's the youngest woman or girl for having a baby? I'll tell you what it is without wasting time. 5 years old, 7 months, and 23 days. That's right. 5 years old, 27 days, and 23 days.
where'd you get
7 months.
that little factoid, George?
Where'd you get that fact? We were just clear.
Oh,
we're
I
a little
I
curious
learned that
on where
when I
your
was
sources.
back in school. Look at 1 second. What's the pastor's name? Joe. What's his last name? Her last name is Medina. Her baby was raised as her brother.
Got it. I had a
They never
Spanish
found out who
teacher
it is.
named
I
Medina.
think
in
she's still.
high
Pardon me.
school. I had a Spanish teacher named Medina
Well,
in high school.
and
It's the
so
same one.
George, but George, your point, and like I said, I don't want to go too far down a rabbit hole. Is that the redefining of everything? I mean, we have basically dropped the conversation on human trafficking. Where is it? I mean, the Epstein Island thing has disappeared out of the media cycle because that's what the left does.
Epstein didn't kill himself.
They don't.
You mean the guy that committed suicide?
Yeah.
He did not
But-
kill.
yeah,
he did
right.
not
He-
kill
But
himself.
you know, and stay with me,
He
George.
committed suicide as much as I'm going to become a liberal.
Well,
He got Clinton, man.
I'm
I'm
going to be in
just
big
saying.
trouble when I go.
well,
I'm going to be in. I'm going to be in big trouble when I go someplace because I'm going to have a shirt on that says I'm white. You know, Coca-Cola. I don't understand why people buy Coke. 70 years I drank Coke. They told their employees not even a year ago, don't be too proud. In Atlanta, Georgia, look it up. Don't be too loud. Don't be too proud to be white, and don't tell people you're white.
hey, George,
Really?
but the thing is by doing that, we are allowing them to win, which is what they want. They want to make us talk about these things that divide us rather than the things that unite us. Hey, George, always appreciate you. We're up against a break here at Cities 92.9.
Yeah, but I didn't get my 10 minutes, man.
Well, I know it's a short session, but George, don't worry. We've got a lot to talk about. Stay tuned. We hope you do. We're going to be back because I still have got some points to walk out that Bongino brings up. One is ignore failures. Try again. That's what they're doing. In fact, Special Counsel Jack Smith is now going to try to indict Trump on raising fundraising off of false election claims. Who doesn't make false election claims? That's what running elections is about. But we're going to cover that when we get back here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal.
Sorry, I always forget that bump cuts out earlier than it always says it will. George is off the line.
I like this. As a Republican, I am shocked at the amount of ignorance going on in the Democrat Party. There is fraud, election meddling. Hunter Biden crime family in general are under investigation for a multitude of charges in an economic standpoint in Illinois, our country, and in our country wide. We are losing our ass. I'm honestly terrified for my children growing up in this mess. Unfortunately, the way Democrats are on a state and federal level are corrupt. So I'm really holding on to hope about getting any Republican in office, because every move we make, they pull the race card or these transgender laws, and the list goes on. Pardon my language, y'all, but
Send them the
just
link.
in shock.
Send them the link. So, Michael, Carol, thank you for obviously watching us streaming. Go out to Bongino's show, episode 1990, Dan Bongino on Rumble, and listen to these 9 points, because we can make a difference by implementing some of these policies. We have to stop. I'm not saying I admire the Democrat Party, but I sure respect them because they don't stop in doing what they're doing. We need to be just as hard hitting as they are. Instead, we have learned to be so complacent.
If you're a Republican and if you are a teacher, right? Because I know that the Democrats are, they've got teachers in the schools right now and they push the LGBTQ stuff. If you're a conservative and you are in public education, just go as hard as they are. Wear an American flag shirt.
Well,
wear a Trump shirt.
First of all, you'd have to find a conservative in the public school system right now.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, most of them are just trying to exist. Well, they're gone, or they try to exist because they know that to do anything within the wrath that comes down on them, the Ben Matthews of the world. You know, Ben will bring in his Michael Madigan attorney to try to get these two candidates off of whatever it was, the objection to their petitions, which really could have been resolved with a meeting. You know, it didn't need an attorney rep from
all
Mike
the way down from Michael Madigan. Yeah, they pull out the big guns and
That's
they
right.
have the resources to
and they
do
don't.
that.
And somebody said, "Well, how about you guys as far as the resources?" Well, that's where we need to start realizing that the Democrat Party funds everything about their elections. And they have seeded it for a long time, 40 plus years
Watch
of
2,000
patronage.
Mules again. Watch 2,000 Mules again. They pay these mules $10 a ballot to go harvest these ballots. They harvest them. They have the ballot harvesters. Then they give them to the mules, and then the mules dump them into the ballot boxes. And they have the money to do it. They pay these felonious types. And maybe that's what Republicans should start doing. But we do it out in the public. We do it honestly. We're not going to hire shady characters to drop off ballots that we harvest. What we need to do is create some sort of plan where we create legitimate mules. And we dump off these ballots the way that they did.
Yep. Chuck Erickson says, I need a cowboy hat. Chuck, I've got my Back the Blue hat on, courtesy of, yes, you're right, Rep the Blue. That's our very own David Quinn. So I'll be looking forward to seeing Chuck again in his cowboy hat, because I actually was taken back. I didn't realize that was Chuck Erickson. He's got the beard now, plus he's got the hat.
Yeah, I noticed Chuck Erickson has the beard going on now.
Well, he was in studio with you. You and Kev were right between him. I was like, who's the guy in the middle? That's Chuck Erickson. He's like B.F. Skinner. He's a psychologist from days gone by. And B.F. Skinner was a behavioralist, and he was known mostly that wherever he dressed to the occasion. That's the Chuck Erickson right there. Chuck goes to the Cub game. He looks like, what is it, Wahoo, the Cub fan. Well, that's Chuck Erickson. He puts whatever the occasion is, he puts it on. I think we're not. We're still a couple seconds away here from going back live. All right, Kevin, can you cue up 21:45 on that Bongino?
I like Dan Bongino's first point there.
Yeah.
Go bleep yourself. What's point number 2? Are we getting into point number 2?
We already did GOP strikes back. Strikes the left immediately, strikes back.
Are we on point number 3?
We already did point 3. You covered it. We have inflation because the government is spending too much money. And you wanted to give an example. Never, never, ever apologize for policy failures. Double down. We talked about that. This one is where we're at.
Ignore failures. Try and try and try again. It's hard here in the state of Illinois. Ignore your failures.
You know, I've been saying it for, well, at least now going on 3 years as I've been involved in the radio process. And it is that Illinois is broken. That's one of my commercials out there. Illinois is broke. And we hopefully come up with concrete ways of fixing the brokenness. You know, I know a lot of folks that can claim that they are part of the Republican Party don't necessarily agree with me on that. And that's kind of sad, because if you can't see what's broken, then how do you ever move beyond brokenness? And that's unfortunately a lot of the current Republican Party. As Dan Bongino says, most Republicans are really Democrats, but there are no Democrats who are really Republicans. In fact, when it comes to Dan Bongino, if you're just joining us, I've been covering his plan, the 9-point plan. You need to go out to Rumble. It is an episode that he put up 2 days ago. It's episode 1990. He is telling us that we need to learn the lesson and practice. Take a page out of the Democrat book. No, I'm not saying we have to agree with their policies. I'm not saying that we have to model exactly their corruption, their destruction, their way of destroy, kill, steal, and destroy. Mm-hmm. No, we don't have to do that. But we have to appreciate that this is what they're doing. And they continue to beat us like a drum every election. And if we don't do something different, we're going to, once again, set ourselves up for failure. And when it comes to failure, his point number 4 is ignore failures, try again. And he wants to point that out by what they plan next with the Trump fundraising off of false election claims. Go ahead, Kevin.
You still threw me off. All right, back to the lessons. Everybody taking notes? Lesson 4, or if Joe Biden was involved, lesson 4. Here's lesson 4. Ignore failures. By the way, I know we're using a lot of sarcasm in the show. I want you to know I'm not kidding. I'm as serious as a heart attack about these rules. Ignore failures. Ignore them. Everyone's going to fail in government. Just try again. The Democrats do it. How do I know that? Did you see this article popped yesterday? Washington Post. Special counsel, Jack Smith, they're looking at the federally appointed special counsel. This is separate from Twinkies up in New York and the Georgia thing. This is completely separate. Special counsel focuses on Trump fundraising or false election claims. A new batch of subpoenas seeks to compare public claims of voter fraud after the 2020 election with private texts and emails. Oh, no way.
I love it, his laugh.
This, fellas, moose nuts. This is like grapefruits, Joe. So just to be clear, Joe, you know we're not a politician. A lot of politicians, right? You've probably been part of interviewing upwards of, would we say 1,000 plus in your time in talk radio, right?
Buku, yeah.
So they can't get Trump, let's say, up in New York, which we don't know. That case is at the indictment stage, right? They're looking to get him in Georgia. Ignore your failures here. Trump's up in the polls. Just keep trying. Eventually you'll do it. We need to do the same thing. Now they're saying we're looking at Trump's fundraising emails for false information. We're going to start prosecuting politicians who make false claims in fundraising emails. Holy, really? Ladies and gentlemen, you better get those mines going for iron ore. Do you have any idea how much steel we're going to need for handcuffs? Can I ask you guys a question? You're on a lot of mailing lists. Joe, you're on a lot of mailing lists. Have you ever seen a fundraising solicitation for anyone that had any true information?
So listen to what he says here. This is great. Go ahead. Keep it going.
Yeah. Guy's going to subscribe. Good job. So, folks, it's a good idea. He is going to join after the show, the DCCC. Oh,
He's
you're
there
there.
right
We're
now.
going to start posting some of their fundraising solicitations for false information. I have never seen I'm not defending either the Republicans. They do it too. I have never seen a fundraising email that had anything actually true in it. I just took a few notes on this. This is great. Now, remember, ignore it. Try again. We should be doing the same thing. FU Politics, Lesson 4. We should get a special counsel appointed to investigate every single Democrat for false claims in emails. We'll lock them all up at one time.
Yeah.
Here's some of them I've read in emails.
But listen, just one example he gives.
The GOP wants to kill your grandma.
There
They
you
do.
go. We've
That's gotta
all
be
heard
false.
that, right? Go ahead. You can cut it there. We've all heard that.
Yep.
This,
Which is totally false. Wrong.
First of all, as Dan Bongino goes on to say, both of my grandmothers are dead.
Both my grandmothers are dead.
So he's not killing them.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's not killing my grandmothers because they're both dead.
Well, and then another one to just draw this point home, like locally, right? I had Molly Emery in studio, Brad Worth, the extremist candidates, and the
According
Democrats.
to Corey Byrne.
Yeah.
Me.
Well, the Democrats, they paid for an entire website and a database for people to search up candidates that so-called weren't extremists.
That's
and then JB funded those Democrats. The Democrat Party of the state of Illinois funded a website and labeled Molly Emery an extremist, which is just wrong. Also on the website, it said that they are deniers of public health or whatever,
Yeah,
and she's a nurse.
Yeah.
So what the GOP has to do is fundraise for things like a lawsuit or things like a special prosecutor to be appointed for Molly to defend herself, or to even fundraise for a campaign that says that Corey Byrne is an extremist. But Republicans won't stoop that low.
But we
Why
already,
not?
we already know that.
Corey Byrne came out and said that the 9-year-olds can consent to sex. Why is that not on every single campaign literature out there? I'm sorry, love Chuck Harrington, love Russ Webb,
that's
but
right.
why was that not on their campaign literature? The fact the guy said 9-year-olds
I told you
can
things.
have
Kat
sex.
is not producing today, so she is going to come unglued on the DPB show. Thank you for tuning in. No, yes, that is conservative Kat. We're gonna get her a crowd. But you're right, because there's another candidate who was voted not to be on the board, but came back as a candidate. You know who that is? Our very own Antifa, self-professed Antifa member.
Oh,
Crystal. She comes out and says on Facebook that she is part of. That's not how Antifa does it. That's not how we do it. She refers to her as part of Antifa.
Yeah, remember the comment. That should be
the thing,
screenshotted in
she
on everybody's
wants
literature,
to
campaign literature.
she wants to defund the police. I don't know in what cosmic world that makes sense right now. But bottom line is, you're right. Corey has no problem coming out and calling us extremists. And yet I believe you are an extremist. In fact, the fact that you are an educator around young people, I'm very concerned about that. But don't worry, you better feel like somebody's always watching you, because from going forward now that you've made these claims to the public during this election cycle, trying to disparage, to destroy the reputations of Dennis Frank, Brad Worth, Molly Emery, Amy Jetta. These are folks that I know personally, and I have watched them and their commitment to the overall community. And I'm talking about everybody here. I'm talking about the homeless, the marginalized, those people that are out on the streets. I'm talking about the races. I'm even talking about the people who struggle with gender dysphoria. You're right. As Mark Levin says, I said it. Mm-hmm. Gender dysphoria. Because this is mental illness that we're dealing with. And that's the sad part. They are mainstreaming mental illness to be normal. When mental illness becomes normal,
to be celebrated.
to be celebrated.
That's where I really get, because this is a big topic for me that I care about. A lot of my shows and a lot of my content recently has been about like this Bud Light, Dylan Mulvaney stuff. I have a lot of my show today is going to be about that. But when it comes to what we've had in society, when it comes to gender dysphoria, it's really scary because, like, one, my generation Generation Z is the most mentally ill generation in American history.
Yes.
In world history.
Well, and just a little side note, because isn't this where Trudeau in Canada, you were bringing up this story with what they were trying to do up there?
Assisted suicide.
Assisted suicide. Go ahead, Kev.
Well, so yes, that draws into it a little bit. But first I want to say that, so Generation Z, I believe it's 46% of Generation Z list themselves as either having good or excellent mental health. So that means over 50% believe that their mental health is not good or excellent. It's the first time it's gone under 50% for any generation in American history. Secondly, we are the most medicated generation.
Yes.
We don't seek people don't seek to necessarily solve their problems strictly through therapy. It's you have to drug yourself. You have to change the chemistry of your brain through what is called
Psychotropic
medicine.
drugs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, Kevin, I've got a little background in this because, like Bongino, my degree at Illinois State University was in psychology. I thought that I was going to be a school psychologist. So I'm not an expert by any means, but back before you and Kat were born, I was looking into the research that showed here in the United States that 60% of the psychotropic drugs that are consumed in the world, 8 billion people, 60% of those drugs are consumed right here. And now, going fast forward 20 plus years later, I realize who the target was.
Yep. Me.
It's you. It's you. It's my daughters. And now it's even gone beyond that, Kevin, because it's not you. It's the kindergartner.
Mm-hmm.
It's the third grader. Because now they're questioning so many different things, whether it's their gender, because we literally, Kevin, to find out that right now in our school systems, there are administrations and school systems that are not allowing educators, teachers, to identify boys and girls lines any longer because it creates confusion. No, there is no confusion in this matter.
Well, and there's a statistic here. 1 in 10 children under the age of 13. Let's put this into perspective. Kids, they don't start talking until they're about what? DPP, you're a dad.
Oh, it depends. I mean, they can go as early as a year, maybe a little later if delayed, but they can go before a year. I mean, there are certain at even 8 month, 9 month, but it starts to develop. Language is a developmental thing. Yes, go ahead.
Let's say 2 is when they start talking, and then to 12, 2 to 12 years old. 1 in 10 children under the age of 13, 1 in every 10 children will have identified as non-binary or as transgender. In this moment in America, in this point in time, 1 in every 10 children. I got a question. Who are they having sex with? At 2 to 12 years old, who are these children having sex with? Because I don't think that that's legal, and I don't think that they should be practicing in sex at 4 or 5 years old. Does that make that? I mean, that with this statistic, that's what that means. Transgender, non-binary. These are not fashion coats. These are sexual orientations.
Well,
and those words have meaning.
The commenter on our stream, if you're out there listening right now, you can go out to streaming on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. We are streaming live. This is something new. Thanks to our very own Kevin Ferris across the way, who's got all of us up and running and doing that. But you're getting into point 7. Before we get into point 7 of Bongino's 9-point plan, which you can go out on Rumble and go to episode 1990 of Dan Bongino. You've got to listen to this because he just nails everything. But it's resist always. You know, they are #resist. That's what it was about Trump, right? Resist, resist, resist. And some people say, oh, are you calling for violence? No, I'm not calling for violence. In fact, we're not the party of violence. We're the party of peace. Mm-hmm. We're the party of tolerance. Mm-hmm. We're the party of the working class. We're the party of the grassroots. We're the party of leave me alone, not big government, but resist. We need to resist. This is why we are where we are, because we haven't stood up and resisted this stuff. I was going to call it crapola because it is. It is crapola.
Yeah.
That we have to continue to have conversations to realize that the mental illness problem is actually almost like it's being sown into our culture. I mean, when we talk about harvesting, that's what they're trying to do is harvest minds, harvest people, harvest to create this confusion and this chaos. But I do want to get to point 7, resist always. But before we do that, I want to jump into point 6 because I don't think we're going to get through all 9 points here on the show today. But this is at 3509, Kevin. No, actually, back it up, Kevin, to 2650 because I want you to hear what they were saying about President Trump starting in 2018. Here it goes.
The walls closing in on President Donald Trump.
It appears that the walls are closing in on this president.
Feels that the walls are closing in on him.
The walls closing in on him.
That the walls are closing in. And the walls are closing in.
That the walls are closing in on the president.
Are the walls closing in?
The walls are closing in on the presidency.
It says as the walls begin to close around him.
The political walls closing in on him.
This is a president that feels the walls closing in.
The walls are closing in on Donald Trump.
I think the walls are finally closing in.
The walls.
The walls.
The walls.
The walls.
The walls.
Walls.
Walls and the walls.
The walls. The walls.
The walls.
Walls
are closing in.
Closing in.
Closing in. Closing in on.
It's closing in.
The walls are closing in on President.
Okay, yeah, that's good. It's 2023. The walls are no longer closing in on President Trump because you know why, Kevin?
Why, DPP?
Because he masters telling them to F you. Hey, we're going to be back here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. After this, we've got more points to cover from Dan Bongino. All right. That's the essence. Trump doesn't put up with it. And you know what? I believe, and I've said this.
That's why he gains so much support because the reason why everybody loves Donald Trump is because he's doing exactly what everybody wants to do, but they won't because they're afraid of what they'll be called.
Yeah.
But Trump just says, call me.
Well, and Trump doesn't care. I mean, by now, we've been at this for 7 years, and the walls are closing in. You know, bombshell, you know, his time's coming to an end. You know, now they think that they finally got him on the New York, but now they realize they don't. So now they're going to go after him in the means of fundraising off of false election claims, like your grandparents. They're going to push grandma.
Well, and you know what they're going to be using for that? The Douglas Mackey case, the meme trial.
What is it?
The meme trial. It was in New York. It was Douglas Mackey. He shared a meme, I think, about like Hillary Clinton.
Multiple memes. Yeah, I'll look it up real quick and I can share it.
He put out a meme out there, and he was convicted
yeah, you covered
over
this on the Morning
meme.
Buzz. Yeah.
And I'm just sitting here scratching my head. How if we live in a world like that where somebody is convicted over posting something that's funny and satirical?
Yeah, there were memes that were like, it was vote for her, vote from home, posting. So like if you posted the word Hillary and used the hashtag presidential election, then like his memes claimed that like, oh, that would mean that you voted for Hillary. Or he also had like links where like, oh, you could go like vote from home here and so it was in that way like
so
lying-ish.
So what state was he from?
New York.
Was he in New York? So it goes to show you where are the hot pockets of where are these places where people are bringing these cases. Well, they're obviously going to favor the Democrat way, the ideology of them. You're not going to see that case brought in a court system of, Mississippi or Alabama.
You're back.
All right. Just like that, we are just closing in. The walls are closing in here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. They're closing in on this studio because we've got Kevin Ferris from Speechless. We've got Kat Peterson. Yes, that's right. We are live. If you aren't seeing this, you've got to see it because we are just started implementing live streaming of our shows. Not only Speechless, the Morning Buzz, but we're going to do more and more of that because we know that you guys want different content. So we're trying to provide that. We're out there on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook Live right now. We were just having this discussion off air of too many things. I even get lost sometimes, and this is exciting stuff. But really what we're talking about is the fact that Chairman Tracy, Don Tracy of the Illinois Republican Party, has released a memo basically stating that we need to do all these things going forward. And I'm sorry, Chairman Tracy, we have several priorities now at the state party: improving Republican unity. Oh, we're past unity. I don't know. I need to send you a memo. There's no more unity. Unity, what does that mean? Uniparty? No, we can't do that. We've been doing that. That's not going to work. Building a bigger tent. I'm sorry, that does not work. Michael Madigan showed you how to build a bigger tent. He went out and he got patronage. He hired people with state-funded jobs or taxpayer-funded jobs at the township level, at the municipal level, at the state level, and those folks were his generals, his foot soldiers, and they were basically put in charge of bringing the vote home.
Yeah.
And where did those votes come from? They didn't come from people. They came from ballots. It's called ballot harvesting.
And ballot dumping. We should get good at that too.
Ballot dumping. And you know what? That's what part of it is trying to keep up with what is currently happening.
Because it's not illegal. It's not illegal to go and dump ballots and to take ballots and to knock on doors.
No.
To harvest them and then to get somebody to go drop those ballots off for you.
The fact that we're even call it ballot chasing, I'm sorry, I can't do that. I can't bring myself to say ballot chasing. I'm not chasing anything.
Yeah.
Because if I show up, I'm getting it.
Yes.
Chasing means I might not catch it.
Yeah.
I'm here to catch it.
Yeah.
I'm here to make sure
Interesting. Nice word choice, Don Tracy. Good
well,
word choice.
but the thing is this is why Bongino began his show stating basically the swampy GOP. You know, no wonder Trump had such a hard time during his tenure, because he was fighting the media, the Democrat Party, and the Republican Party all at the same time. And I think that's what the common sense Republican, conservative Republican in this nation has come to the conclusion. I believe the common sense conservative Democrat has come to that point. I believe we have allies in conservative Democrats, because I believe there are issues that the Republicans and Democrats, and I don't believe there are very many Democrats any longer that are out there, but there are conservative Democrats. They're hardworking. They're the blue-collar people that have kind of unified around this grassroots movement to say we want limited government. We want our children to be educated in reading, writing, and arithmetic. We want our borders secured. We want our energy to be cost effective, not Green New Deals. We can't afford Green New Deals. We're financing something we can't afford. And that's kind of what Bongino said. Let's see here. Can we get to 3509 before we go back to break here? So basically, Americans don't want them, meaning we don't want that. And what do the Democrats do? They do it anyway. Mm-hmm. And this is what we're going to hear here in point number 6 on episode 1990 of Dan Bongino.
The lesson is have a policy goal. Just figure it out as you go along. Here's lesson 6. Americans don't want it. F them. Do it anyway. Doesn't matter. Wow, that's harsh. Joe's like, he went there. He really went there. No, I'm going to prove it. Do I ever say anything I don't back up? The Democrats, this is their lesson for us. Americans don't want it. Flip them the middle finger. Here's what I mean. Cue up that cut from CNN. So Americans don't want electric vehicles. How do we know that? Because they're not buying them. At least there are about 5.8% of the cars out there. You know, rich people can afford them, but they don't have the range. Listen, I'm not knocking electric. If the market wants them, buy them. I have nothing against electric cars at all. They're very fast. Some of them are amazing. My friend Brian just bought a Tesla, said it's the fastest car. He's into fast cars. He had a Corvette growing up. He loves it. I'm just telling you that most Americans, I'm telling you, relax, CM lady. We need her right now. I'm telling you, Americans don't want electric cars. Most people, 90% plus, want gas. They want the gas car. Here's CNN.
See, I missed it. And I know we got to go up against the break, but it was even higher. I thought it was 50%. It's 90% because they're not purchasing them. But what does Joe Biden and the Joe Biden economy say? He tells you you're wrong. You want it. Whether you like it or not, you're going to get it. It's kind of like Caddyshack. Spalding, you'll get nothing and like it. And that's where we're at. Hey, we're only on point number 6. I think I briefly covered 7. We've got 2 more to cover. We've got about 1 more big segment to go here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. We'll be back right after this. Isn't that classic? It's almost like, can we play the rest of that through can they hear it on the live stream? Yeah. Yeah, let's play the rest of that. Look at Kevin working it over there.
This is CNN
working.
saying, hey, we looked at this poll, and basically nearly half of Americans are saying, we don't really want them. Doesn't matter. Plow straight ahead. Check it out.
47% of Americans surveyed say it is unlikely they will buy an EV, an electric vehicle, as their next car. That's almost half. Only 19% said they are ready to go electric, citing high cost and battery range.
Hat tip, what is it? Keith from joining us from Salem, Massachusetts. Good to have you, buddy, in the live chat. Salem.
They're hearing it because
talking about if they don't want it, F them. That is Salem. Right? So listen, you say we're going with that. CNN, 47% of Americans, they don't want it. Doesn't matter. Americans don't want it. F them. They don't want tax cuts. They don't want school choice. Just plow ahead anyway. We're learning it from the Democrats. Come on. It's as Guy just said, we got a current thing mug. Just support the current thing, man. Doesn't matter. That's a great point. Just shut up and support the current thing. And if not, just make them support the current thing. Here's another Daily Mail. Read this article again in my newsletter today. Check it out. It is freaking hilarious. Daily Mail. Most Americans say climate change.
All right. So, this is the point. If you haven't seen this episode, I usually say this. I know it's kind of like that this is the most important election. This is the most important election, 2024. Unequivocally, never in the lifetime of any of us. This is the most important election. This is the most important episode that you can listen to from Dan Bongino. Go out to Rumble. It's episode 1990. It was 2 days ago. It was on Thursday. Great show yesterday, but this point, and granted, he even begins the show by saying, this isn't cutesy time anymore. And I don't know when I am literally reading from Don Tracy's memo, and all he can say is improving Republican unity. Don, that might have worked well during like the Civil War. I don't know. I don't think it worked well either then. No, it was very clear. There were the Confederates and there were the Union Army. And they disagreed, and they were at war. That's what we're at. We're at war.
Yeah. And
if we're trying to figure out unity in the Union Party, because that's what the Republican Party was. It was the Union Party, just in case you didn't get the memo on that. We're done. The cutesy time is over. If we are trying to entertain unity with people like we had here in our local marketplace.
If you don't subscribe to and I like how Dan Bongino said that, if you don't subscribe to the current next thing, the cool thing, whether that be BLM, Antifa, whatever the heck it is, right? If you don't subscribe to, they don't care. So you shouldn't care what somebody says to you about, oh, well, I want school choice. Oh, well, I want my kid to be able to ask their teacher about the Bible. I want my kid to be able to learn about civics. I want them to know that taxation is wrong.
Yeah. That's cool. And I appreciate it. Yes. And I appreciate you mentioning that. We've got so much still to cover yet. And you just brought up a point, Kat. And if you're just joining us here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal, this is exciting stuff. Why? Because I am sitting in studio with Kevin Ferris of Speechless, Kat Peterson of Conservative Cat in the Morning Buzz. They're waving on if you're watching us live stream, because these two are part of the future of what we're about, is establishing Cities 92 on a regional basis as the source of common sense and conservative thinking. And you know what? You brought up something about, Bongino saying in that last segment. That's the next thing, right? And they try to get you to go along with the next thing, whatever it is, and they're going to sign it, and you're going to like it whether you agree with it or not. Well, in my fingers right here, as Rush Limbaugh saying, my formerly nicotine-stained fingers, is the Carathon. This Carathon was put on by Catholic Spirit Radio downstairs, and it ran from the 12th to the 14th. But you can still donate. I donated the money that I would make on today's show to them on Friday. I walked in there, filled out their little form. It was really seamless and very easy, and I encourage you to do it. You can either mail it to 108 Boykins Place, Normal, Illinois, or you go to Catholic Spirit Radio, or you can text GIVE to 309-233-0086. Text GIVE to 309-233-0086. There's a plethora of stations. Right now, Spirit Radio covers about 600,000 listeners. If they can get this new transmitter up in Rockford, it'll be up to 1 million. And the reason you might be saying, DPB...
Can you get that number for me one more time? I'm going to put it up on the screen.
Okay, you text GIVE to 309-233-0086.
Got that. Thank you.
Okay. And the reason I'm bringing this up, obviously our very own Catholic Spirit Radio in our basement, is this. Believe it or not, the FBI is not letting up on the Catholic faith tradition.
No.
They're going after him again.
You're praying your rosary way too hard for our liking, and we're going to come after you, and we're going to send in undercover agents. And
which
you know what was amazing?
Resist. This is what I'm saying. This is why it ties so well in. We've got to come in support of Catholic radio, because what they want to do is they want to censor. Not only do they want to get rid of us, because we're not the party of censorship, right? They're the party that has demonstrated over and over again. And now, in light of this young 21-year-old high secret spy that has leaked all this information because he was, I don't know, he was like in NORAD. He was, I don't know how you become the
Santa tracker?
What's that?
NORAD,
he was Santa tracker.
He was the Santa
tracker?
tracker?
He had all the secrets. He had Santa's secrets. He had everybody's secrets. He is 21 years of age. He's just out of the box as an Air National Guard. And this guy's got more past. Well, I know he knows more than Joe Biden does. That's for sure. He's got more secrets than Joe Biden does. But this is the part of it. They want to utilize that to censor group chats and things like that of the sharing of information. Now, by no means am I condoning that our secrets or top sensitive information should be out in the world. Obviously, that didn't matter to Bill Clinton. Sure doesn't matter to Joe and Hunter Biden. They say that obviously Trump was trying to create nuclear war during his presidency. That didn't happen. North Korea, China, whoever else he was creating nuclear war with. But now the Catholic Church, that's what they're going after. Why? Because it represents the most populated Christian faith tradition in our country. That's why they're going after them. They've already sown enough division inside of the Catholic Church. They're going to continue to operate, as you were just saying, Kat, on the point of just doubling down and continuing just to put it out there the way they see it. Now, I know that transitioning here, Kath, I still want to get to it because I brought up the Resist Always, and it's at 3845 on Bongino's episode 1990. It's time that the pushback is we just tell them to, go fly a kite. But he does not say go fly a kite.
No, he does not.
He says he uses 2 letters.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, but he did this on his podcast.
But he did do it on his podcast. And you know what? I think he can get away on his podcast doing it, but I think we can get away here too. It's a little strong, and it's not language that I usually, and I know Dan is a professed Christian man, but I think you see the passion this man has of not allowing the freedom and the liberties of this country to be undermined by the left. And that's all they have is the undermining of this country because it creates their entire platform. The platform of kill, steal, and destroy is the Democrat Party. This is what Rush Limbaugh warned us about. We can't play patty cake with these people, not cutesy time as Dan refers to it. We need to eliminate this movement that's going on. because it's a cancer.
And the way you do that is maybe send, maybe not somebody from within the government, right? But maybe send a friend undercover in one of their churches. Just recently, I think it was Hope Church. Right, they go after the Catholics. I mean, maybe we should start sending people into their churches and see how they like it, and spy on them in their worship of the LGBTQ gods.
So
Maybe
we're
we
on
should
number
do that.
7. Resist always. Kevin, do you got 3845 pulled up?
Give me one moment.
Kevin's working on it across the way. But you know what? If you're just joining us here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal, I have Kat Peterson in studio with me. This is, I think, one of the first times that you've actually been here without running the board. You've run the board for me a couple times, which has been nice because obviously, like Kevin, it gives me the opportunity to banter back and forth and have somebody else, a voice of clear thinking, because I'm not always on my A game, believe it or not.
Oh, come on, DPB. You're always on your A game.
I do have the clip ready.
All
by
right,
the way.
go ahead.
Lesson 7 here.
Number 7.
Resist. Always. That's their thing, right? Hashtag resist. So you're going to tell me, this is a call for violence. Well, you're an idiot. You probably don't listen to my show ever. We never do that. Of course, you're just a moron jerkwad trying to stir up some. But that's your thing, right? Resist. So maybe we should resist too. Folks, they resist. They do it all the time. Maybe it's our turn now. I saw this morning as I was scrolling around for some news to fit along this FU politics narrative we've been telling the whole show here. North Texas venues hosting drag shows say they won't back down as threats and protests grow. You want to shake your junk in front of kids in a sexualized manner, sexualize young kids? You're going to resist? Maybe we should resist too. Maybe we should resist too. We should take no part in this. If you're forced to do it, go to jail first. Go to jail first. Resist. They like to resist. I mean, it's their hashtag, right? Seems to be working great for them.
All right. And so I'm going to advance it. So obviously we got the resist. We understand that. And if you're just dialing in, that's Dan Bongino. Great show on Thursday he put forward. It's on his podcast on Rumble. You can go out there. It's episode 1990. But I want Kevin to jump forward to 4130 on this episode, because it talks about point number 8. And if I don't get these points in, I'm going to feel like I let you guys down here today, because we need some true substance. We don't need this Patsy cake, or I keep calling it Patsy cakes, patty cake, this cutesy stuff of trying to defeat this juggernaut that is running us over in every election cycle. This is point number 8. Pick a target, freeze it, isolate it, and do not let it go. Go ahead.
Said it yesterday. Saul Alinsky's rules, baby. Pick a target, freeze it, isolate it, and do not let it go. Folks, you have an opportunity right now to do something about this dreadful Bud Light scenario. They want to get into transgender, sexual identity, politics, activism. Fine. They are a free company. I do not believe in socialism, but you are free to never purchase their product again. Katie Pavlich, Town Hall, in the newsletter. Merchandisers are sounding the alarm about what's really happening after Bud Light's woke move. Nobody's buying the beer, folks. It's sitting there on store shelves, in bars, and nobody's touching it. They've lost billions in market cap. Do not let up. You do not have to beat every company in this game. You just have to beat one once in a while. You've now got this target in front of you. Pick it, isolate it. Do not let it go. Do not buy that beer again until they come full circle and get back to what they do, selling beer, not engaging in sexual identity politics with Americans.
Can you bump it up to 4305 real quick for me? Because he talks about, as he continues this conversation, they get into science a little bit, which I think is important with this. Pick the target, freeze it, isolate it, and do not let it go.
I'm not telling you to be an idiot and to ignore science. I'm telling you that science is so corrupted that many times you can feel free to ignore it because it's not science at all. Oh, that doesn't happen. The Democrats do it all the time. You are never going to see a better piece on this than this gem by Kelsey Piper at Vox. Not Fox, Vox with a V. They're a left-wing site. The new scientific review on masks and COVID isn't what you think. No, it is what we think. It said very clearly, quote, as they stated in the piece, this is hilarious. Wearing masks in the community probably makes little or no difference to the outcome of laboratory-confirmed SARS-CoV-2 compared to not wearing masks. It's clear as day, dude. Cochrane, by the way, which is considered the gold standard, they did a meta-analysis, meaning a study of studies. Cochrane came to this pretty conclusive result here, that it probably doesn't make a difference. Their words, it's right there.
Science! Science.
Yeah, here's the subtitle. But finding answers in science isn't that easy. No,
keep playing.
See, they're correct. Guy's laughing at it because finding answers actually is easy. You do an experiment, you get a result.
Easy. You know, it's sad that we had to go to the extremities. And when they call us extremist, we did have to go to extremes to protect our children. They were masking them. They were trying to vax everyone, right? Everybody needed a vaccine. Everybody needed a mask. We were called deniers. We were called, baby killers or grandma killers. We weren't called baby killers because that would have meant they were self-identifying as what they were. But here's the thing. When the science finally came out, whose side was the science on?
Yeah.
We were saying it for a long time. We had to go into courtrooms to protect the constitutional rights of bodily autonomy. Now, granted, that is their battle cry, too, for the abortion bills that they're passing, is bodily autonomy, except for the fact that they only take into consideration one body, not the baby's body. The baby's body isn't a body because they've declared that a baby is not a baby unless it's outside the womb.
One body, two bodies.
That's right. That's right. So bottom line is that's why I'm so pumped about this episode and encouraging you right here from the studio at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. There's a reason we carry the formatting we do, the programming that Kat does with Levin, Bongino, Beck, even Sean Hannity, the lineup, Ben Shapiro, Chandler and Swan, Speechless with Kevin, Kat doing her show, Ty Smith, myself, and we're bringing you this new formats and this new platforms of social media and streaming because we know that there's no one else speaking truth to light. I mean, if you sit back and you listen to the local newspaper and some of the local radio stations, you're not hearing the truth. I mean, they are so slanted. They're so biased. Heck, those people are still out there saying the walls are closing in on Trump.
The walls are closing in. The walls are closing in. The walls are closing in.
Bombshell.
Where?
Bombshell.
And I like what Dan Bongino says there, David Paul, is pick a target, isolate it, and never let it go.
That's right.
Never let it go. And the Bud Light, he's talking about Bud Light. There's people out there right now, they'll say that, Bud Light's not actually hurting, blah, 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 and they won't let go. That's them not letting go of their piece.
Well, but it was you too,
Kat.
Kat. There's a couple things that you've done. The Hayworth situation. If we would have that almost went without even being reported. How many things are happening here locally? And it's happening across the country in many little small towns like ours.
Yeah.
They have, it truly is The Walking Dead.
And you get wins. You get victories in
That's
some
right.
places. You just got to pick
and we're
a
gonna
target,
get more
isolate it, and
we're going to get more victories, Kat. We're not going to implement the policies of or I should say the strategies of the past. Don Tracy, your strategies are antiquated. The Republican Party, thankfully, we have a Republican Party in McLean County, Tazewell County, where there are forward-thinking people like Jim Rule and Dennis Grunler who know that this thing we can't continue to go back to what we were doing in the past. It didn't work. Brushing it off and thinking that we're going to arrive at some different result utilizing yesterday's strategies is ignorance. It's stupid. Hey, we're going to be back here to wrap the show up actually after this at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal.
pick something, isolate it, never let it go.
Yeah.
So.
And I didn't even get to number 9 because I think it could have been the science thing, but he I don't know if he had.
What's number 9?
I'm going to have to listen to it again. I think it was the science thing, but I couldn't quite get it.
Oh, I see.
I was trying to get them all loaded.
Yeah, this was.
I was trying to get John Finch on the show from The Father Effect, my friend from Texas.
Mm-hmm.
He literally just texted me, said he can't do it. Oh, no, it said 1 to 3. He said tomorrow. No, I didn't say tomorrow. This was Topher. Couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I mean, you just do the best you can in throwing. Sometimes I don't. I recall that we're streaming still live, and I know that my mic is on. But this is the beautiful thing about live radio, is that we're constantly moving around.
Yeah.
And we're putting out invites to people, and we're trying to create content. No disrespect to my friend.
And like and share and throw in the comments if you guys are listening and be a part of the show. I read a couple of them, and I like reading the comments on air. But yeah, there's one somebody. Oh my gosh, and this is amazing. And I wanted to get your thoughts on this, and I'm not gonna say, but this is incredible. There's absolutely nothing wrong with a parent deciding a certain book is not right for her child. There is a colossal problem with a parent deciding that therefore no child should be allowed to read that book. Well, you're talking.
Who's talking about book banning? Pornography in schools is against the law. You cannot bring pornographic content. Everybody says, well, it's not pornographic. Yes, it is. It is the definition of pornography. I mean, how influenced are you in your mind that you don't believe that some of these books, I mean, when Becky Swan was at the school board meeting and she was holding up that graphic book of men giving each other oral sex, men demonstrating oral sex to women. I mean, I don't know what is the from my understanding as a young man or a young boy, that would have been pornography. I'm pretty certain.
So pornography usually refers to the representations designed to arouse and give sexual pleasure to those that read, see, or hear or handle them. Sexual stimulation and blah, blah, blah.
So it's pornography. But that goes to show you there's plenty of that out there. Hey, we're coming back here in a second. Yeah, are we back, Kevin? Yep. Oh, we're back. And I know that we're at the end of the show. And yes, live streaming, Kat had to make sure that I was keeping it between the rails because sometimes, putting together content like this and trying to muddle through all the craziness. Kat, you do this 15 hours a week, well, during the week. Then you turn around and do 2 hours of live radio or sometimes taped on the weekends. That's 17 hours of content. I do 2 hours of content. Across the way, our very own Kevin Ferris was Speechless. He does 2 hours of content. In fact, he's going to do 2 hours of content after doing 2 hours of content right now.
Yeah, well, and then I'm also, if you go follow my YouTube on Speechless with Kev Ferris on YouTube, I'm not only going to be doing 2 hours of content on Sundays from here, but I'm also going to start doing Wednesdays as well.
And I was going to be there with you on Wednesday, but I had a little stomach flu. Stomach flu actually still exists. I had it.
It's season.
I didn't need science.
Amazing.
It's called an experiment. I had the stomach flu, and I can say that I had the stomach flu. Wow. Science.
Yeah. Are you still taking your ivermectin? You better be. I'm worried about you.
I'll start taking my ivermectin. Yeah.
I squeeze mine out of the tube every day. I just put it in my gum line there. It keeps me healthy as a horse.
All right, Kevin. Tell us about the Speechless show today and where you're going with that.
Yeah.
Well, I know you're going to talk a little bit about DeSantis's.
So I will be talking a little bit about DeSantis's event near the end of.
Sorry.
Oh, get out of here, Kat. Get out of here. No, but I'll be talking about DeSantis' event. That'll be in the second hour of my show. I'll bring in Jim Rule, Tazewell County GOP chairman,
and
to
that's
discuss
huge.
that.
I mean, let's admit it. Ron DeSantis coming to Illinois, especially at this point in the state, the state's broken.
Mm-hmm.
It's good to hear some refreshing ideas from a governor who is now basically the nation's governor, right?
Yep.
I think everybody refers to him. Obviously, we know what the liberals refer to him as. They say he's Nazi, and fascist, and what else? So you know that he's over the target if that's how they're referring to him. But go ahead.
So there's that one. But the first hour of my show might even spill over into the second. Is I've been asked this question because it's been now 2 weeks, just about, since Bud Light announced that they would have Dylan Mulvaney, the man who pretends to be a woman, as one of their influencers. It's become a story that has captivated a significant amount of conservative media. But a question I consistently get asked is, why does this matter? Why is this such a big deal? And I usually get this from progressive and moderate people that I know, because they make kind of a point. I mean, there's times so often where companies consistently make woke changes, and it fizzles out within 2-3 days. I mean, we'll talk about it. We'll say this is crap. The Daily Wire will come out with a product to compete against it, and then we'll kind of forget about it. But this one has stayed within the media spotlight for 2+ weeks. And so I'm going to answer the question, why does it matter? Along with that, I'm going to talk about Donald Trump Jr. had made some comments regarding this Bud Light thing. And I think they're actually a lot more controversial than people would assume.
And that's okay, because as conservatives, we can disagree. I disagreed with what Donald Trump Jr. had to say, and Kevin's going to unwrap that when he has his show next. But Donald Trump Jr., and this is the part that frustrates myself, I know it frustrates my wife, is when we hear people say that you can't do something because that person has given money to the Republican Party, or they donate money, so therefore they should be treated differently because that's blood money. That's not how I operate. Hey, before we wrap up the show, and I know we're up against the end of it, Steve Deese, he's a news personality. I know you know who he is, Kat. I know you know who he is, Kevin. But Steve had just gone through a bout where he had some issues with his health, and it looks like he came through that okay. But he has a movie out. And really? I have my friend Jeff Hobb. Thank you, Jeff, for sending this off to me. But Jeff said, Dave, you got to go see this movie. It's called Nefarious. Nefarious? Nefarious. I'm calling it Nefarious. It's a movie that was released this past 2 days ago on April 14th. Get to the theaters and see it. Support Steve Deese. I said Steve Cease. That's a guy from days gone by. Steve Deese. First and foremost, I want to thank you. This is him on his posting of Facebook. I want to thank you for all that you have gone out to see Nefarious this weekend. We are so proud of this movie, and the audience feedback continues to be overwhelming. We are by far the best user reviewed movie opening this weekend. Bottom line is, it's rated R, but don't let that scare you away, because it's a scary thing, right? It deals with evil. It deals with possession. It deals with a psychiatrist going into seeing someone who's on death row, who's about ready to be executed, and he is being told that he's being possessed by a demon. Well, it comes out that this psychiatrist, who was an atheist, finally starts realizing this dude is possessed. And I know we talk a lot about that, but bottom line is, Scripture speaks into it from the beginning of the New Testament. They talk about the evil one who came, obviously, to destroy, kill, steal, and destroy. So there's something to it. But you need to get out and see that. Kat, obviously, a lot going on out there. The chairman of the Republican Party has now released a memo that he believes that we can just be kumbaya, one party, unity, patty cake. See, I got it right finally. I almost said Patsy Cakes, but it's no longer patty cake time. We have got to take definitive actions to move our party forward, and that means we're going to have to compete, and that means that we're going to have to take a page out of the Democrat book. We don't win if we don't. We continue to be right here experiencing the same results that we've always experienced, because they have perfected all of the gamemanship, and we're choosing to say, well, we're just not going to play that way. Well, unfortunately, I don't think we have a choice any longer. Hey, appreciate you guys joining us here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Kevin Ferris is up next with Speechless. He's got a full show. You want to tune in, stay tuned in. Obviously, he's on YouTube and all the other venues, Facebook, Twitter, and watch Kevin. He's always brings it hot and heavy with, hey. But until next week, hey, Kat, thanks for being here. Kevin, thanks for being here. And especially you. And our advertisers, please support them. They support us. Without them, we can't continue to bring you conservative content to the central Illinois market. And we know it's needed because our competitors are never going to report the things we do. Hey, until next week, I'm signing off. DPB.